Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, crazy babies, to another episode of Jam Sessions with your host, yours truly, Joe Mykut. I have a really great author on today. I hope you enjoy the interview, and be sure to stay tuned after the interview for a few great book recommendations. Without further ado, I'm going to scooch along off stage and bring on our next author. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, crazy babies, to another episode of Jam Sessions with your host, yours truly, Joe Mykut. I am here today with the author of the book called Forward, Miss Lyn Caldwell. How are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today and letting us get to know a little bit about you and your book.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of Forward, tell us about that book. What is it in your own words as the author?
Sure. First, I'll show you.
Yeah, there it is. Awesome. I love when the authors have their book with them.
Yeah, I like the cover. So Forward is actually a collection of pretty much the bulk of my poems from starting writing at 14. And it really runs the gamut since it is a compilation. There are, poems in there that borderline on silly, but there are poems that deal with sorrow and loss and a lot that deals with identity. And really, as I was compiling everything together and I was going through it with my editor, we saw that the theme that was coming forward was this idea of moving forward, finding ourselves on a trajectory in our life as we look back at the past, as I look back, seeing where have I been and that tension of where do I want to be and what is the reality of those things that have shaped my life. And so mostly the poems do flow in a sense towards a goal of hope. Let's put it that way. They go from a place of despair moving towards hope and really seeing mainly a thread of faith woven through, seeing how God has been faithful to bring me out of darker circumstances into a hope for the future.
That's really beautiful. You know, it's such a simple title, Forward, but
Yes.
your explanation behind it is so much more complex, and it really does kind of portray the human experience. And we are on a how do we say that word?
Trajectory. I know it's a hard one.
Yeah, right here on camera. Trajectory. And moving forward, you know, that's really the only life is motion, and that's really the only thing that's going to stay constant. So that's a really beautiful explanation. Now, mentioning the cover, what is that cover all about?
So this is actually a photo of a property that my parents own. And there is a little girl walking here, and it's actually my daughter. And we were walking on this path, and I just remember this moment very significantly because it was after a time in which my grandparents had passed away. Our family had sold the ranch that I had grown up going to and having a lot of memories, a lot of formative years there. And now all my family was together. My brothers and my nieces and nephews were all together at this property that my parents had purchased, and my children were walking. And there's just this moment of like, I am leaving behind my childhood, right? And in this book now, I'm processing some of those emotions, but I'm moving forward. And for the sake of my children and for the sake of those who will come behind me, I want to, I really want to analyze where is this path going? You know, where is the hope in the future? So that's kind of why I did this. You know, it's very symbolic to me. And I think, you know, hopefully it's beautiful for others to look at as well. You know, it's got some nature there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love the nature aspect, and it's always awesome when we can incorporate the personal touches and our loved ones in our journey. And I think that's really cool. And really, it does symbolize, you know, there's a young child moving forward along a path, headed into her own future. And so that's a really beautiful cover there. Now, what would you consider in your book maybe one of the more powerful pieces? Does something stand out to you as the author that you remember writing and thinking, you know, this is a really strong piece?
I would. Can I mention two?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say there's probably two. The title piece is called Forward.
Okay.
And it is the first piece in the book because it really sets the tone, and it really discusses all those same themes of looking at where I've been, letting go of failures, letting go of mistakes, but being realistic about my limitations to improve myself, right? I'm not able to, but resting in the grace of God to move me forward, right? In and through all my weaknesses and pain. So that's really the title piece. It's the one that I've gotten the most feedback on as being resonant for others.
Okay.
But there's a piece in here that is called The Lights on the Hill. And it's really powerful to me. It's similar, but I wrote it at a time where I had experienced a lot of loss, a lot of sorrow, and was really feeling just the passage of time, almost like a fire hose,
Right.
being shot into my mouth. And I was questioning just how I would continue, and just how good could God really be if these things were crumbling around me.
Right.
And I found myself processing this through in this poem, and coming back to really roots and foundations of faith that had been there since childhood. And so it's kind of a simple poem in that sense, but it's one of my favorites.
Absolutely. I think that's beautiful. I always enjoy, and I find that many people have included in their projects a pivotal moment in their life where it
Yes.
was crucial for their faith and for their hope and for their own ability to partner with those things to pull themselves through those dark
Mhm.
times. I think
Right.
they're pivotal moments, and I really do think that those things are almost to credit for these projects that have come to
Oh
fruition,
yeah.
these books. I mean, I love that people are taking those tough things in life and turning them into something positive like this. So that's a reoccurring story that I hear. Now, what about Miss Lyn, the author? Share with your readers and with the viewers maybe some unique tidbit of information that maybe they don't already know.
Okay. I don't know. I'm a pretty open book with most people. But I would say probably something that comes to play into my writing that maybe people aren't aware of, is just the influence that my brothers had on me growing up. So I have three older brothers, and a lot of the people that are around me now don't know my family. They don't know my brothers. They don't know that deal. And I love them very much, and they've been very influential in my life, both in hard and good ways. And so there's a lot of allusions to them in the book. That would be one thing that I think is, I wouldn't say unique about me. Everyone's got brothers, but something that is significant in my life. And I don't know, maybe a silly thing. I'm 6 foot tall, so I'm a pretty
Oh,
tall person, which actually I feel like that maybe that comes through in the writing too. There are some lines in there that maybe that is apparent.
okay, awesome. Well, I'm a little jealous as a 5'7" person. I've always wondered what the life
Stairs
on the
like up
tall
here.
side would look like. Well, that's really cool, and I think that's awesome. Again, that you were able to incorporate some personal touches there and pay a little homage to your siblings. And they
Mhm.
wouldn't be brothers if they weren't both positively and negatively impactful. So
Yeah.
um, that's really cool. Now, what do you hope that people gain from reading your book forward?
Yeah. I definitely just hope that they see the themes of hope, that they see a hope in a God Father who loves them, through failures, through loss, in their limited humanity, that they are valued and loved and known. And so I hope that comes out. On a literary side, I do hope that people find the book accessible. And I think that my poetry is accessible in the sense that it uses modern language. It is typically on topics that are just widely experienced. But I do stick to more traditional poetic devices in my poetry, which I think, there's a kind of a resurgence of love for poetry right now. And that's cropping up, in Instagram and different things, which is really great. But a lot of that is because of the limited format. It's a more simple form of poetry, which is great and wonderful. But oftentimes you get maybe more platitudinal type stuff. And so I'm hoping that this is accessible enough that people can enter into maybe a more robust poetic experience.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, a little something for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really encourage people to pick up your book, Forward. It is available on Amazon.com, correctly?
Correct. Yep.
Correct. Okay. All right. And so be sure to check out Forward by Lyn Caldwell on Amazon.com. If you do grab a copy, leave a review. Those are always great. It lets the author know what you think of their work. And it also helps with the algorithm to help keep things moving along and keep that book up front and present. Now, what about any other projects, publications? Do you have anything underway that your readers can look forward to? What's
Not at the moment. I will say one thing that's been just a blessing in disguise with this project, as I've let go of the past and put this compilation together, I found it a very freeing process to actually write more. I would say I was kind of in a period with young children where I was not writing as much. So I actually have been writing quite a bit more. And mostly those poems are going up on different, Facebook pages and some different forums, allpoetry.com, and some of those places you can find me. But I do hope once I have a sufficient amount of acceptable work to have a second volume, but it's probably not at this moment.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It takes the time to compile those works and to get them to a point where they are ready for book format. In the meantime, though, your readers do have Forward to look forward to, a little play on words there. So again, stop by Amazon.com, grab a copy. We absolutely thank you for coming on today, Miss Lyn Caldwell, and sharing your book with us, sharing a little bit about your life with us, and sharing your faith with us. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And if that book does come to fruition, maybe we will have you on again in the future.
That would be great. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Until next time, Crazy Baby. All right, Crazy Babies, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Jam Sessions with today's